So Kathi Dew is kind of a special person to me because she bailed me out a couple of years ago. I first met Kathi when she was state president at a couple of our summer sessions at Willamette University and then in Bend. Kathi is from Montana, and she's a graduate of Montana State at Bozeman, a little town that I really love, maybe not so little to you. And she's a band person. So I'm going to ask her at the end of this little intro to tell us what instruments, I'm assuming several, that she played. But anyway, she taught band in Montana, in Albany, Oregon, where Nancy Brown lives, and has done quite a few things with other bands around the state. She became a principal, and she was in Lincoln County, in Corvallis, and in Springfield, near my hometown. So after retiring, she moved to Bend, and she got involved with AAUW and did a lot of great things with the branch, and then became state president several years ago. And that's when I first met her. Kathi is, I didn't know that about her when I first met her, that she was a principal, but I really see it with the way she leads. She considers everything. And I think she's a pretty smart woman. So she's a team leader for Tech Trek in Central Oregon, and she's the branch membership chair for Bend. But where she saved my bacon was a couple of years ago at our meeting in Bend. And I was the alternate on the nominating committee. And there were only 3 members of the nominating committee there. And Kathi said, I can't be president, or I can't be chair. And the other person said, I don't want to be chair. And I said, but I'm the alternate. I became chair, but Kathi really did the work and made it work. So I appreciate that. And she's going to tell us how she does that magic. Thank you, Kathi.
I took over, huh?
No, you did the big part. You knew everybody. I was a novice.
Well, thank you for the background.
And so what instrument did you play? Instruments?
My main instrument was clarinet, but when you teach, you have to be sort of a good elementary student on all of them. So I even had to pick up the violin, which was a good thing I never ended up doing strings, because that was not a good quarter for me. But good, one of the things that's true about a music background is that you realize that you are only one in a group of many, and every player in the group is key, just like in any organization. You can't run a band without all the instruments. You can't run an organization without branch members and people to help move it along. And so I come with that kind of thinking, I guess, that you team in order for an organization to move forward. And that started with me from day one. I grew up on a family farm, and we all worked the farm. Mom and Dad were smart in knowing that whether you are 5 or 12, there's a job on the farm that you can do. And so it's important to assign a task that a person can carry out without having Mom and Dad to be right at your shoulder. As I got involved in school, I got involved in band and decided that teaching was the way for me. I did that for several years and then went back and did some more training and went into administration. And I was lucky along the way to have experiences where, as a new teacher, a senior teacher from another school put me under his wing and sort of helped me learn the community and the way things worked. And when I was a principal, we teamed in our region. There were 5 or 6 schools in our region, and we collected our region often so that we could support one another. And you could see amongst the team that there were people with strengths in different areas. And collectively, we were a strong team, but individually, we didn't have the strengths of every single member. I think that's true of any team. So tonight, we're going to discuss planning for your branches tomorrow. And in my estimation, what happens in that nomination committee is the most important committee you could put together the whole year, because they set the stage for what's going to happen tomorrow. So I can't really see everybody that's here, but I'm hoping that you will feel free to just step up and say, now, wait a minute, I have a different idea, or what, I have a question, because I'm not planning any breakout groups, but I don't want to talk for 45 minutes. So feel free to, I won't be able to see all your hands. So Nancy, you can help me if I'm overlooking somebody, I hope. But thank you. I appreciate that. So one thing you kind of have to wonder is like, you know, well, what does, I'm looking for a leader, but what does that leader look like? What are the traits that she should have? Think for a minute about the traits you'd be looking for in one of your branch leaders. And seriously, 1 minute. So if I called on somebody, you'd have to remember to unmute yourself. But I see Ilga's in my corner. So what would you be looking for in a leader, Ilga?
I think I would be looking for energy and enthusiasm.
Ooh, yes.
I think I probably could share the fact that Kathi handed off nominations leadership to me after she moved on. One of the things that I tend to do is I observe the members and what they seem to be interested in. And if I already observe some enthusiasm and some interest, I think those are the ones that I look toward first.
Good addition. Bev Critter sent me something in chat, or Kidder. Is it Kidders?
Van Sitters.
Sitters. Bev, this is a good one. Please share.
Yeah, someone who listens, and I think that's really important for any leader. You know, we might not want to hear what people are saying to us, but it's really important to listen to our members and so that we get the pulse of what's happening.
Exactly. Oh, really a key one. Anybody else have anything in particular you wanted to share about what you'd look for in a leader?
A sense of humor.
I think you should have some humor too, all right.
No, humor.
Yes, I know. Good, Margaret.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sue?
Even though, like Margaret, I think it's a pretty dry humor, it's still a good one to have. Otherwise, life is not that serious. Sue Klump.
Someone that's willing to be open to change, that's not so set in how things have always been, that they're not willing to go forward with change.
Right. So Nancy, maybe you can help us with a list now that I provided. You know, you can Google leadership and you'll find 1,001 lists. And so I just randomly picked one. And if you're interested in the handout, I know Nancy can share with you where to get it. But there are some things that they suggested on this list from a toolbox for leadership. And will every leader have all of these traits? Well, you might have some strengths in some of the areas, but you may not have them all. So one of the things that you, in addition to the traits that are listed here, it's like, well, in addition to that, sometimes there's a role that requires some sort of specialized skill, like the kinds of skills that Nancy has in knowing how to use this technology. So one thing you want to consider is amongst your group, what kind of specialized skills do you have? Does that make sense? Yay, nay, nod your head. So just looking for someone that has those skills may not necessarily fit the bill for what you're looking for. Let's see. Why don't you think right now for 2 tasks that you have been working on for either the state or for your branch? 2 tasks, and in addition to the traits that are recognized here and by people in the group, were there some specialized skills that might be needed in order to accomplish the tasks? If so, turn on your audio and share.
Okay, I'm Jenny McQueen, and we have all those skills that are wonderful and skills we wish for and strengths, but right now our problem is just finding anyone who will step in and take a position.
Any position.
You know, it's like you have empty slots and everybody says no. And
Yes.
that is the problem. That's why I'm on
Yes.
the nominating committee for Portland branch, and that's why I'm here. It's the same people cannot keep on rotating into the same positions. They're tired. And with COVID, you can't figure out, because we're not meeting in person, empathy, consistency, honesty, direction, communication, and flexibility. Right now, it's just finding a warm body to keep a branch going.
And we have experienced that in Ben too. So it's not a new issue for sure. So let's move to, if you haven't already started, if one of those tasks that was in your mind about doing this fall was not getting a nominating committee together, then we really need to get started on this job, because it's the board's job to start thinking about, well, what is the structure of our leadership? I can't remember your name, but you talked about, we need a warm body that'll just volunteer to do something. So one of the first things I suggest that the board do, and Nancy, if you go to page 2, the top part, one of the things you need to do is just study the structure of your leadership. Do you have too many offices to fill? Are there some jobs that can be taken off the list? So are you set up as offices like president, program vice president, membership, or are you structured so that you have, well, let's have 7 people that get together, there's going to be our leadership team, and we'll select a chair from that group, and then we're just going to do the tasks that need to be done during the year to run the branch. So that would be another system. Or if you're struggling just to find leaders and yet you believe the branch wants to continue, national requires that you have at least an administrative contact and a finance officer. So before you send the nomination committee off on a job that you need to assign a job that's doable. So do we need to streamline the number of officers that we have? Maybe we don't want to go with officers. Maybe we're just looking for a number of people who are willing to help plan and move the group forward during the year. And they don't need a role other than they're on the leadership team. Pat, question? Involvement?
The comment. I would suggest that rather than starting with the leadership team or the board, that the entire branch do that task. I think we all know it, that 4-cell grid, that what works, what doesn't, what should we add, what should we drop, and have the entire membership of the branch do that, and then take that to the leadership team and the board, because sometimes the board and the in the trenches membership are not necessarily seeing things the same way.
Very, very good point. Yeah. Led in some way so that you can really, really hear what the members are saying.
We had, I'm sorry. We had one, and I want to go with Pat on this one because she and I were on a national committee on membership, and another organization I belong to is called Toastmasters International. They have what's called Moments of Truth. So you work with the club, theirs is a club, not a branch, but you work with the members. And sometimes it's really difficult that we have to be so honest. you know, with people who might be club killers, with people who might be, you know, not really with the program. How do we find those leaders? So I think working with the membership is really super helpful, that we get that culture of trying to get people to raise to those leadership levels.
Right. And you have to assess your branch. Are you dealing with a branch of 30 people? Are you dealing with a branch of 150 people? And that discussion needs to be structured in a way where a person can feel safe in sharing their real thoughts about the organization and what the leadership needs to look like. So the idea of discussing it amongst the membership is super smart, but it at least needs to happen in the board, and you at least need to be honest with yourselves. If you're hearing there are no volunteers, you may, you need to do something to make sure that the task you're sending off the nominating committee to do has reasonableness or some flexibility. And the purpose of having a nominating committee is to not have the leadership team go out and look for some rubber stamps of themselves. So it's that fresher perspective, and that nominating committee, I suggest, should be comprised of at least one former officer and then other people, so that you have that fresher perspective. Another thing when you're considering the structure is, do you have your leaders rotate, stagger off, or do you have all new people come on at the same time? And if you're looking at a smoother transition, and again, it depends on your leadership team and how much they're willing to plan during the summer to get off to a smooth start, it's typically recommended to have staggered starts, so that half of the group staggers off, is finished, and half of the group stays to provide some continuity while you take in new membership. So all of that is something that needs to be determined before you send the nominating committee off to do their work. Let's see, and before you turn it off to the nominating committee, I would talk about people that you think would be contributors to the leadership team, whether it's to a certain, well, you know, I think this person should be the membership vice president, or if you're in the structure where you just have 7 or 8 leaders, I'd really like to see this person on our team because, and discuss the strengths of those potentials so that you can share that information with the nominating committee. If you don't have any discussion with the membership before that time, you at least need to share with the members that we are looking for 3 people to do these jobs, or we're just looking for 3 people to add to the team. If you're interested, contact one of the members of the nominating committee. So you have a chance to deal with people that are self-nominating themselves for something, or people from within the group. Other suggestions before I move to the nominating committee? Ideas? Okay.
I see Margaret.
I
Yeah.
suggest that you go over, since there are only really 2 required people, the president and a finance person, that you say, if we don't find anybody for the March social, we're not going to do it. And just say, that's it. You've decided that you can't find anybody, so we're not going to do it. And that puts the pressure on them to try a little harder.
Agreed. And it may be obvious to the group that they want to continue, but they don't want to seek for a number of officers. So then it becomes a nomination committee's responsibility to find the 2 required officers. And perhaps there's someone that's already served that will serve as either the administrative contact or the finance officer. If not, those roles must come from the membership, and the membership needs to know that. Good suggestion, Margaret. So then if you have assessed your structure and how you want to move forward with the leadership for the coming year, it's time to get together with the nominating committee. And you note that I said that the board, the leadership team, would be doing that in the fall, so that in early winter, the nominating committee can start their work. And I know the first year that I was president here in Bend, I started thinking about it. It was actually in January. So it really was late in my estimation. But a member came to me and said, crap, we've hardly figured out the year and you're already talking about next year? You're off base here. But it takes the nomination committee some time to approach people because it's not done as a group. It's an individual thing. Claire, I understand you have some input.
You know, we're having a bit, let's see, how do I want to say this? What we're trying to do is right now we're looking for someone to take over the president's position. And we have another position too that's not membership, but it's program. And what we're trying to do, we're really putting a lot, we're going to try and find someone who will be a president-elect in January. And our idea is that during this really difficult time, we want to make sure that whoever we do get, and I have kind of a stealth strategy on somebody in the branch that I'm hoping I can talk into. I'm really trying hard on this, but anyway, so that the person would be able to be an president-elect and then get mentored for 6 months. So we're trying that so that it's not so frightening, and we're actually looking at a couple people who are fairly new members. We've had some issues about moving forward on some new initiatives and a little bit of foot dragging. So we really want to start moving with some new people with some new thinking forward. So again, we're going to try and do the mentoring kind of thing, and we may be choosing that's the president is probably our major number one focus right now, and then we will start looking at the other two positions a little bit later, but that's the one that has the highest. But I think the mentoring thing is something we really need. It. I think it's a lot more comfortable for new people coming in, and I think you have a better chance at finding someone who has not done it before.
Agreed. If the nomination committee spends some time talking about the strengths of the people that they're going to approach, that gives you a basis for having that conversation with the person. You think they would be perfect for that role. Why? And if you can have a dialogue amongst the nominations committee, they may see other traits in that person that might be compelling in selling that job. So I really think it's key to talk about the people you're considering as a group, keeping that information confidential so that you have that as a basis when you go into that conversation with those people that you're considering. And in order to keep the information in one package, I suggest that on the nomination team, that one person go off and seek a particular candidate using the discussion from the nominating committee, and not all people go off and work on all the roles at the same time so that you can keep track of where you're headed. So now the next thing I would do, unless there's some other ideas, is go through that approach to the person that you think would do the job that you're seeking. So the next page, Nance, is making that approach. And at the beginning, I can't remember who said it, but very clear, this is where you need to listen. If you're going to sell the job, you can't go in and just talk, because what you need to find out is what's inside the head of the person that's at the top of your list. So I would have a conversation like, hi, I'm this Kathi, but tonight I'm calling you because I'm from the nominating committee, and I wanted to talk to you about joining the leadership team as our team leader or as the president. Have you ever thought of doing that? We talked about different candidates, and people had mentioned your energy and your ability to organize, and I really think we could use that kind of help. And what do you think? Have you thought about it? So then you listen. The person may say, no. Oh, I am so busy. There is absolutely no way I could take on something like that. So I would respond to that. So time is your issue. Are you thinking that this job would take large amounts of time? Are you interested in finding out how much time it would take? So listen to their concerns, record those, answer them if you can. I'd sure like to hook you up with somebody who's done the job or someone that you believe this person respects. Would you be willing to spend time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, talking to the person who's done this job or do the job to see if there are things about the job that would entice you to actually do it? Giving them time to think, letting them know the strengths that you see in them. And if they are a firm no, I mean, you can hear a firm no. If you hear a firm no, then I'd go and say, if we plan to continue, we really need somebody who's interested and can do that job. Who would you recommend? If you think they are the person to do the job, it would be important for us to find out who is it that they think would do a good job. And are you sure? Follow up with, are you sure this is really something that you don't think you have time for? Because really, the job can be as time consuming as you want to make it. Some people spend a lot of time and some people spend very little time. But clearly, in order for us to exist, we need to have somebody spend a little time. Could that be you? So what I'm trying to do is have a two-sided conversation with this person. A lot of times people want more time to think about it if they haven't thought about it. So it would be like, well, why don't you think about it? I've got the name and telephone number of the person who's doing the job now, but you may know somebody that you would rather talk with. By all means, do that. And someone flashed on the screen. Thank you. I think it was Pat. You might consider, working the job with someone else. Then it's not a big time investment in anyone. But if I don't hear a firm no, then I keep giving options for how it might be thought through with somebody else. Most of the time, I don't get a firm no right off the bat. So then I make plans for a follow-up. Why don't I give you a week to get in touch with so-and-so or anyone you want, and I'll call you back. Is evening better than daytime? And we're going to have the same conversation, and I'm going to push a little harder for a yes or no. Pat, I saw your hand up.
Yes, and I totally agree with Sue's comment that she wrote in the chat, but I also wanted to add that, Kathi, you have an extremely subtle ear for the level of no, because you don't always take a no as a no.
Is that right?
Right.
Sometimes you got to hear it really clearly. And because I think sometimes people say no because they're not confident and they don't really mean no, Pat. I think that there's a yes there unless I can really get a sense of absolutely not. And I have heard a few absolutely nots, but I think sometimes we give them the weasel amount to rush out the door if they don't really give a firm no. And so I do think we need to be honest with ourselves, step back, give them time to think. And if you get that firm no next time, I think it's respectful enough of people that you believe in, or you wouldn't be approaching them in the first place, to give it a very thoughtful consideration. This is the hard part right here. Those individual approaches, because if you have an ego, you'd better park it at the door, because you're going to hear every reason why it ain't going to work. And maybe it won't. And if it won't, then who would you suggest we approach?
Kathi? When you approached me, and this was first time, and I've been approached a couple times before over the past 10 plus years, and my reactions then were always no. And I think it was based a lot on the type of approach. You did not try to schmooze or wrangle me down or twist my arm too much, but you listened to me and my concerns, and you gave me time to research, and you gave me the tools that I needed to research. So you were open to me and my reaction to that, to your ask. So I think what you're saying here, your level of ask is very, very approachable for people. And I know for myself, it's the first time that I seriously considered, and I actually did do the yes. Of course, we all know this, much to some people's chagrin. But I mean, and trust me, you are very hard to say no to as well. But no, I appreciated the respectful approach that you gave to me. So thank you from my heart to yours.
Oh, and thank you. I mean, what a compliment to me. I so appreciate that. But I mean, really, this is, when you listen to Pat and Susan, then think of the people that you want on that nominating committee. This is not the bulldozers on your team. You really don't want the bulldozers here. And so those that are sincere and underline, listen, 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 those are the key people and people that know your branch well enough. That's not to say that someone new to the branch can't be on the nominating team, but I think it makes it harder for them. I truly do. And it is possible that the nomination committee members can be super. They've approached everybody that was suggested, everybody they can think of, and they still come up dry. So I think at that point, you go back to the board, explain where you are, and see if amongst the group that's there, is there someone that's going to step up to be the administrative contact? Because I agree that is usually the position that people veer away from. Although I'd say that financial officer has a job and a half to learn as well. But if you want the branch to continue, the nominating committee and the board need to, or your officer, your leadership team needs to have a come to Jesus meeting to say, I got nobody, or I got two. And can we make it work with these? And we're going to do away with this, and we're going to do away with that. So that when you get to that slate of nominees, you can go back to your branch and say, okay, one person stepped forward. These people are willing to continue. We're going to do away with these things. We're going to keep these things. And if you would like to keep some of the things we've dropped or do something different, feel free to contact any of these board members that are elected so that we can consider putting them back into our action plan. Otherwise, these things are gone. And you then, if you move to the next section, Nancy, slate of nominees determined, I kind of rambled through that. And then the last is you have a slate of officers, and the people that are going to be working together need to be respectful of one another. Be willing to listen to different ideas that maybe you tried 3 years ago, but this is a twist on a variation on a theme, and be willing to open your eyes and ears to different things. Because many times people are unsure about serving because there seems to be some rigidness to new ideas. So, but when you get that slate of officers, live with what you committed to. Don't try to overwork that group of people that did step up and volunteer, but do what you said, take feedback, communicate clearly. And, you know, it's such a great opportunity to grow and really develop a set of relationships that you would have never had otherwise. I open it now for things that, gosh, I wish she would have said, or other ideas. I realize this is a problem that continues to grow as we age and our membership dwindles. No questions, no nothing. I
Susan
think,
Pierce,
yes, Susan?
unmute yourself, please.
You're on mute.
So when I joined Tillamook, there were 5 50-year members, and I joined not to change a thing, but to learn how on earth did these women in this little redneck community stay together. So I was very fortunate to have them. But what I recognized then is once they're gone, our seniors who know everything were left with mega records, and officers don't want to take boxes and boxes of pictures and etc. So Tillamook has formed a records management committee, and everyone on it is new but me. And as president, I'm on most of the committees anyway, so I joined that, and it is so refreshing to have new people, new eyes to say, why are you keeping that? And coming up with a better way so that when we have an officer, we get to hand them maybe a 3-ring binder or 2, and that's it. We're not overwhelming our new officers.
And I'll add that we found an officer one year for membership, and she was handed the description from the national website for what the membership vice president did. And it was so overwhelming, she stepped back. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you can even reduce the 3-ring binder into a few pages,
yeah,
there is a better chance that a person feels like there is room in this job for me to put my stamp on it, and that I don't need to be this 3-ring binder.
Kathi, I have a question. This is Lorraine Wheeler. I'm from Vancouver.
Hi.
And I'm a new chair of the nominating committee, and it may be that we may be needing to replace our finance person or treasurer. And I wonder if you could speak to some strategies, because obviously that must be a hard role to fill, because I heard you mention it. Is there support from national for that role? What would be some helpful hints on how you could get somebody to be more comfortable with that role?
Well, I think that the state offers us an avenue for knowing who the officers in the state are and who does a good job with that. I myself have never served as the finance person, but as the membership person, I have to link tight with the finance person. And so I've learned a lot by just listening to the finance person talk about her position. She's a former military retired person, and she is great. I would recommend her as someone to talk with, you know, from any place around the state. That finance job has its differences, but the things about managing the money that goes to national is very, very, very much the same. So talk with the state finance person about who might be an effective branch officer and buddy them with that person. To me, that's probably, I don't know, like Sarah Elmer is the state finance person, and she's done that job for a long time. So she herself might be a good person to talk with someone interested in the branch job, because she's done the branch job as well. I'm volunteering Sarah's time. I don't know if Sarah is here tonight, but I often think that sometimes the best person is another branch finance person that's been in the job a year or two.
Kathy,
Okay.
Kathy, in Oregon, Sarah Elmer doesn't deal with so many of the things that the branch finance officer deals with. Because for that branch finance officer, part of the most important thing they do is renewing or adding new members. And that's something that the state finance officer, Sarah, doesn't have anything to do with.
Am I talking to Jenny?
Yes, this is Jenny. I'm sorry.
So Jenny, you are a wonderful resource for state people. You're right. Good for you. In fact, I called Jenny when I had a membership issue. So, and do you know the finance people around the state, Jenny?
I know them all. I have them on a group. I mail to them on a frequent basis to update them, because sometimes we get stuff from national, but it's easy to get lost. So I try to update everyone on anything that I think is really important. The branch finance officer has that membership bit. And then they also need to keep, of course, their records, their budget, you know, that kind of thing. And I'm seeing so many branches taking that job and dividing it. One person, if the branch is big enough, to have one person handle renewing the membership and all that, because that's a little bit complicated until you've done it several times. And then someone else taking care of keeping the budgets and paying expenses and that kind of thing. But the state of Oregon has, what I also am, is the dues treasurer and database manager. And so I've really had to learn how it works. And I'm always available to help someone.
Good offer. I know that in Bend, we had some new members a couple of years ago, and they offered to help. And sometimes us old experienced members are the worst enemy of new people. And so we do, because we talk and we don't always include them, and they're trying to catch up, and we're not the best about including them right at the get-go in leadership things. Ilga, I see your hand. I only have 3 people on my screen, so
I want to defer to Maggie first, and then I'll go after Maggie.
Maggie?
Yes, I was state finance for 4 years, and I am the finance vice president of the online branch. And I want to tell you that with the member database system, I had to relearn what a treasurer does of a branch with the automatic dues payment, and trying to figure out who's paid and when the money comes back is something that is hard to do, but Jenny has always helped me. And I am also a resource for people that want to know. I always, when I was branch president, I would ask, do you know how to reconcile your checking account? And if they said yes, that meant that they had some kind of a monetary skill, and ask them that. If they said, no, my husband takes care of that, then I say, okay, thank you. I'll try somebody else.
What I'd like to add here is that I was branch treasurer for Portland branch for 10 years. And during that time, there was an incredible amount of change. And one of them is, just like Maggie said, the feeling comfortable working with the member services database. And there are changes that occur all the time. So the main thing you want to look at is somebody who in addition to be able to balance that checkbook, which shows some comfort with numbers, is some comfort with using the computer and going into that database, because it's all there. And yes, they do change it, but it's something that can be learned. I even, I handed off the job to a woman who had, with about 100 members. Portland is a little bit more complicated. And so I was showing her double entry bookkeeping. Now, she didn't do it online with electronically, but she did it with pages so that she could keep track. And I explained that to her. I figured anybody, they teach it to high school kids. We could certainly learn it. And so I think the most important thing is for that person to be comfortable with the membership database, services database online, and to work hand in hand, of course, with your membership vice president. That is extremely important.
And I might add right now, because of the virus, all of AAUW staff are working at home. So I really feel like your best line of help is using your local branch or the state officers, because national they don't have everything at their fingertips when they work from home. Anybody else?
This is Linda.
Linda Liebecker.
Linda, hi.
Hi. Yeah, this is Linda Liebecker. I think something we're not stressing quite enough is something you touched on, Kathi, getting to know the members well enough to know their strengths, but also to know what they want out of the branch and what they would get out of the position. I mean, everyone has their own idea. So that's something to think about when you're recruiting someone, to be able to talk to about whether it's friendships, if they're young and working on their career, whether it's something to put on their resume. I mean, there's different reasons people will step up to do things. And I think sometimes we forget to sell it in a sense of what the person assuming the office would get personally out of the job too, as well as giving to the branch. So
right.
We just haven't really talked about that. And I think it's something we sometimes forget.
And it's important. You're right, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
This is Maggie again. I would say that AAUW has taught me so much from when I joined when I was 30 to now that I'm 71. Everything, parliamentary procedure, how to run a meeting, how to do so many things. And I went back on an EF community grant and got my CPA because I finally figured out that numbers were my thing. So I agree that we need to tell people what they can get out of being a member and an officer and a volunteer.
Mary Pat had a comment.
Mary?
I don't know if it's so timely now. It was just another comment about finance vice presidents. In Lake Oswego, we have two now. That was a relatively new thing because one has been sort of designated to setting up our 501c3 account with the state, which we've now done. And I don't think probably going forward we'll need more than one. But I was finance VP. I was not the person doing the 501c3. I was just doing the regular kind of finance stuff. I have no finance background. I have no, really, I'm a political scientist. It was very simple, I thought, to learn the system, to learn the online system, the membership database at National. I mean, it took very little time and very little time for me to train the person who succeeded me when I became president, and very little time really altogether in the office. I mean, you balance your books, you check the accounts, you pay bills, and you give monthly reports. It's not, I don't think it's very complicated. I think it's a day or two here and there. So I would just say, I think that's one of the easiest sells for board members.
Good for you. A reminder, Mary Pat, that we are educated women and we can still learn stuff.
Yeah, and I will mention this too, that we have redone our terms of reference for the membership and finance VP because they do have to work very closely together, and that wasn't reflected in the original, job descriptions. So yeah, thanks. Anyway.
Yeah, good. I see we're getting close, Pat.
Oh, I just wanted to comment about job descriptions.
Yes.
One of the things that we are doing at AAUW of Oregon is asking people who are in positions, what is it you are actually doing? We've done this recently with the district directors and changed the job description quite significantly to reflect what they are doing and what they hope to do, rather than this list of abstract things that who knows where they came from originally. And it's shorter, more compact, more user-friendly, I think. And, I think that's worth considering for all of our job descriptions so that they're not intimidating and that they are realistic and give good guidance for people actually contemplating the job.
Good task to do.
Pat Squire.
And I agree with that, Pat. The two Pats here, I go by Pats with an S on the end. I think when I first started looking at position descriptions, both for the state and even for our branch, they were so intimidating because they were wish lists. They were like, oh, the ideal person would do all these 90 things. Let's get real. Let's get real with the position descriptions and make them what we want to get done, what we think we can do, a little bit advantageous, but not so much so that they're undoable. I think that's really important. We need to be honest about our own branches and what we think our branch wants to do and what's realistic.
And I wanted to say and didn't say it, you made me think of it. I think a lot of times when people come in with ideas to do something that may or may not be in the job description, as long as the leadership team agrees to the end product, like I would like to do blah, blah, blah. As long as the definition of what that end product is, I think this is an opportunity for a new leader or an old leader to find the path that they want to use in getting there, because you can learn a lot that way. So if I want to drive to Portland, there's lots of ways I can get there. And please, damn it, don't tell me which road to take. I will get there and I will get there on time. And we need to allow those new leaders and old leaders an opportunity to kick around and find their way through and take feedback and learn new things along the way.
Gail?
I have a couple of comments to make. In my branch, which is Medford, the president has been serving for a 2-year term. And the complaint that we have heard is that if you serve 2 years as a president-elect, 2 years as president, and 2 years as past president, that's a 6-year commitment. So we have changed that to a 1-year commitment for the president, which sounds a whole lot more reasonable because 6 years is a big chunk of time. The other thing that we have done, which I think helps, is when people are concerned about the amount of time they're going to spend in an office, is that we have streamlined our business so that we can use quarterly board meetings rather than monthly board meetings. And we still get the work done because there's a lot of repetition from month to month. And if something comes up in between that we need to take care of, we do it online. And it seems to be a more reasonable request for somebody to say, hey, can you give us part of your time? Time is precious.
Right. Yes. And
Kathi?
Some branches do not have the commitment for the past president as a role. So that varies in how you structure yourself.
Yeah, quick comment, kind of spurring off Gail a little bit as well. But I think a lot of what we see when we're approaching people to take these positions is it's such a negativity. It's like, wow, you're the fifth person I've asked and everybody said no. You know, you're automatically going to put up your defenses. So, you know, I think we need to interject some positivity in it and, you know, let people know this is what you're going to get out of it. You know, this is where you're going to grow and learn yourself, and try to give a little bit of positivity. I mean, we don't want to go in and sell it, but we don't want to go in and throw them on the ground and say, you're going to do this or we're going to hurt you. So, you know, a lot of it's in the matter of the approach and the ask with it, and also the realistic viewpoint of exactly of the job descriptions. And, you know, I found for people that being able to approach somebody that's held the position before was helpful, because I know I certainly did that. I think I contacted 3 of my mentors because I wanted to know realistically what the job was going to entail. And thank you to a couple of my mentors that are here tonight. So, you know, that positivity, I think we need to interject, because it's really easy when we're so overwhelmed and we can't fill the positions to make it come across as, wow, you have to do this or we're going to end the organization, instead of saying, wow, you know, we would love you to do this, and how could we help you fulfill something in you by accepting this position? Just a thought.
Parting comments from anyone else?
Well, Nancy, this is Nancy. I just want to say that what you're all saying now about helping the person understand what is the benefit for them is a very basic marketing principle called what's in it for me, is that we always want to help the people with them. What's in it for the person? Why would they, what are they going to get out of it personally? So that's exactly what you're talking about. And we really need to remember that.
And I agree, Nancy, with what you said, but there's also another part of it. What's our why? Mm-hmm. Why are we in here? You know, why are we here? That's really important too. So thank you for saying what you said.
Thank you, Bev. I think that the why is key. I mean, it's the basis of everything. Why? Why are we here? Why are we doing what we do? And why is it important?
Well, and why do we care whether there's a branch or not?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the why, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I do it for the money.
Me too, Maggie.
You're going to be here a long time.
Sign me up.
I do it for the first class air travel.
Well, Pat, I turn it back over to you, Pat Squire. Pat.
Okay, I had a momentary blank on SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, advantages, and
opportunities and threats.
Opportunities, right. Yeah, okay. Someone wanted to know about the 4-part grid. So I think that, Kathi, you have kind of summed up the challenge, but also the reward of this whole process. And I think the mentoring after the officers are selected is really important. But I do want to hear from Claire about how this is going to work with a potential president-elect coming in January and studying with the current president when they aren't actually elected yet. I think it's a great idea. I really like it.
I haven't worked that out yet.
Okay. When you do, will you please let me know, and we'll get it out to everybody.
I will, and I'll make it some kind of a formal statement too.
Let's make it up together.
With backup information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathi Dew. And I think, Nancy Brown will get this. She has something to say, of course.
I just noticed in the chat, did you answer this? I didn't notice. What were the 4-part grid? What's the 4-part grid?
I started out with strengths, weaknesses, opportunities.
That's not what the 4-part grid was. That was something different. Yeah.
Okay.
Pat Lehman?
Canceling that.
The 4-part grid are just a grid with boxes. And the first one is, Okay. What are we doing right? What are we do?
It's on the screen.
What are we
It
doing?
was
Let's
what
put it on the
works,
screen.
what doesn't. The first two were what works, what doesn't, and then you had two more.
Yeah,
What
thank you.
works, what?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm tired too. What works? What doesn't? What should we add? What should we drop?
So it's on your chat right now
Yeah.
from
Good.
Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. What's working, what's not working? What do we keep doing? What do we stop doing?
Right.
Okay.
Better than SWAT.
Yes, SWAT's a business thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of date. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Kathi Dew, so much. We appreciate you and we want to see more of you.
Ah, yes. I want to see more of you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Good session,
Thank you so
Kathi.
much.
you.
Thank you all for
Bye.
coming.